Welcome back. I'm Maple, your host, lifelong football tragic, and the only person who watches Chinese men's football for the comedy, not the sport. If you're new, we don't do analysis, we do autopsies.
On September 5, 2024, Japan beat China 7-0 in Saitama in a World Cup qualifier. Full time, 7-0. Not a typo, not a basketball score. Japan had 102 entries into the final third. China had existential dread.
The press called it the heaviest defeat in Chinese history and blames coach Branko Ivankovic's incompetence, which is cute, like blaming the waiter because the kitchen is on fire.
Look, Japan didn't just win a game. They exposed a system. Japan scored through Endo, Mitoma, Minamino, Ito, Mata, and Kubo, basically a J-League All-Stars reunion tour. China looked like 11 guys who met in the parking lot.
Why 7-0? Because Chinese football is exactly how the country runs everything else. Top-down, political, and allergic to accountability.
First, you have the Chinese Football Association, which is not a sports body. It's a government department with cleats.
Every decision is 5-year plans, slogans, and officials who've never kicked a ball but love a photo op. Japan builds academies. China builds committees.
Second, corruption as a business model. For 20 years, the CFA has been a revolving door of arrests, presidents jailed, refs jailed, players jailed.
You can't develop youth when the youth coach is paying bribes to get his U15 team into a tournament. In Japan, kids learn passing triangles. In China, kids learn Guanxi triangles. Third, the political structure hates risk. Coaches get hired to not lose 7-0, not to win. So you play defensive, old, slow players with experience, which is code for connections. Japan brings 21-year-olds from Brighton and Real Sociedad. China brings a guy because his dad knows a provincial sports bureau chief.
Fourth, no grassroots. Japan has 50,000 registered youth coaches. China has 50,000 real estate projects with a football pitch in the brochure that became a parking lot. Parents don't let kids play because the system chews them up, and the one-child generation was told doctor or engineer, not winger.
The 7-0 wasn't a football failure. It was a governance report card. A centralized, opaque, fear-driven system will always lose to a decentralized, merit-driven one, whether it's chips, cars, or counterattacks. Japan didn't need ideology. They needed a plan. China had ideology, a banner, and 7 goals in their net.
And, the funniest part, after the loss, state media praised fighting spirit. My brother, fighting spirit doesn't stop Mitoma. Fitness, tactics, and not picking the squad based on political reliability do. Quick hydration break. If you enjoy me explaining national humiliation with sarcasm, subscribe. Leave a 5-star review or a 1-star if you're the CFA. I need the hate watch numbers. Share this with that friend who still thinks naturalizing Brazilians will fix systemic rot. Now you might be wondering, why exactly is football the ultimate mirror for these broader societal issues? Well, the sources we're unpacking today point to the philosopher Karl Popper and his concept of falsifiability. Basically, Popper argued that a claim only actually matters if it can be tested and proven wrong by evidence. If a claim is impossible to test, it's not a fact, it's just a belief. And according to the analysis in our source text, this is exactly the problem. In a system where you can, theoretically fake economic GDP, or hide unemployment rates, or broadcast these grandiose slogans about how you lead the world, football becomes a massive liability. It is the one thing you literally cannot fake, because you have to play it in front of the whole world on a scoreboard that simply doesn't lie. You can't just edit the broadcast tape or hold a press conference declaring a 7-0 victory when everyone just saw you get absolutely crushed. The sources highlight that some of China's most powerful business figures actually tried to fix this. Guys like real estate tycoon Wang Jianlin poured absolute fortunes into the sport, but eventually, they walked away. And this brilliantly illustrates the core issue. Wang stated that the problem isn't a lack of money. He realized that money simply can't fix a fundamentally broken institutional rulebook. The system itself is what's bankrupt.
Jack Ma, the founder of Alibaba, echoed this exact same sentiment. He also threw a ton of cash at football before realizing, hey, the core issue isn't the players' individual skills. He noted that the teamwork and cooperation were frustratingly poor, concluding that it is a culture. The sources argue that a culture heavily relying on top-down dictation completely crushes the organic, creative teamwork that you absolutely need to succeed on a modern, fast-paced football pitch.
And as the sports journalists referenced in the source material point out, football relies on this messy, chaotic, bottom-up grassroots vitality. Kids playing in local parks, trying tricks, and making their own split-second decisions. And that is exactly what a highly controlled state apparatus just cannot tolerate. A state-run system demands order and obedience, but world-class football requires uncontrollable grassroots vitality and individual creativity.
So you might be asking yourself, if the system is so bad at sports, why do they win so many Olympic golds? Well, the sources explain this perfectly. Look at diving or weightlifting. These are isolated, non-commercial sports that can be perfected through repetitive, highly controlled state drilling behind closed doors. They have zero reliance on a dynamic global market or grassroots culture. You can drill an athlete to perfection in a secret facility, sure, but you cannot drill a dynamic 11-man football team facing top-tier global competition the exact same way.
So, faced with a scoreboard that relentlessly exposes these systemic failures, what does the leadership do? Well, our source analysis suggests they've largely abandoned the falsifiable pitch altogether. Instead of fixing the broken, highly controlled system, they've pivoted to unprovable, grandiose geopolitical slogans. Things like, "The East is rising, the West is falling," which are statements that never actually have to play a match or face a verifiable scoreboard.
So yeah, 7-0 to Japan. Not a match, a mirror. It's a reflection of what happens when a rigidly controlled system finally meets an arena, where the truth cannot be censored or manipulated.
Massive thanks to my producer, FireflyHaku, who tried to register as a Chinese youth prospect, but got rejected for lacking the correct paperwork, a party sponsor, and the ability to lose gracefully. I'm Maple. Keep your expectations low, you're pressing high, and remember, you can't reform football without reforming the system that picks the team. See you next week. And until then, ask yourself, when a national team represents a system completely allergic to truth, who are you really cheering for when they step onto the pitch?